Buddy Brian Shannon here from AlphaTrends.net. Today is Friday, the 9th of July, 2021, and we had a pretty wild week here. S&P 500 and NASDAQ closed at all-time highs. The Russell 2000 continues to show a little bit of relative weakness, as do the semiconductors, and the biotechs pulled back a little this week. Let's take a look at the charts here and make some sense of it. We had a pretty good pullback Thursday morning. The market gapped lower and immediately found buyers. Today it continued back to the upside and trapped shorts. A lot of people are talking about things like the advanced decline line, that there are more decliners than advancers, and therefore making market calls based on that. I think what you have to remember and what you need to focus on is the advanced decline line of the stocks in your portfolio. That's the only thing that matters, is managing the risk on the individual positions that you're in for the time frame you're engaged. And you can basically throw out those other things. It tells us be cautious. It certainly doesn't tell us be bearish, but my feeling is we're always cautious. Risk management is job number one, regardless of what the market condition is. Anyways, we continue to show a very strong uptrend. The rising 20 and 50-day moving average are below. Same is true for the NASDAQ. A brief shakeout on Thursday, quickly back above the 5-day moving average, and buyers remain in control. The Russell 2000 had a lower week, and they came down right to the year-to-date volume-weighted average price. As I pointed out, though, that really hasn't had much impact on trading in the Russell this year, but it is just a reference point. Today we bounced a little bit, so again we came down to the midpoint of this range that we've been involved in, and there's just no directional trade here. I still believe that it's more likely it will follow through on the upside eventually, but right now isn't the time. Obviously, it made a lower high and then failed, so we've got to give it time to set up once again. Semiconductors, they broke below this prior trend line, and I was on the alert that it's possible this was a failed breakout, but after yesterday and today's actions, it's looking more and more like it was just another shakeout within a primary uptrend. So the lows that we saw in a lot of stocks and these ETFs on Thursday will be important points to measure risk against, at least going into next week. In that, the biotechs, this group, I was stopped out of them over here, and I'm not back in, and I'm okay with that. I didn't continue to ride it lower, so the primary trend is still higher. I got out with a profit, and that's my time frame. I think that they'll probably set back up again sometime next week for another low risk entry, and we'll see how that develops. The financial stocks are in this bigger range. They're kind of moving kind of like the Russell 2000. Is that here's the midpoint of that range, the high point up here and the low point. We did make it back above the 20-day moving average and the 5-day moving average, but I still think that there are better groups to be involved in than the financials right here, right now. Energy names made a lower low on this time frame, and right now that prior band of what was resistance turned support back into potentially resistance here. So I don't see an advantage in the energy names either. But just a lot of great movement. This ALKS continues to be one that I hold on to. Sientra, twice it's done this. I think this short sell, the stock starts to rally and then the short sellers come in and pound it back down. But eventually the buyers are gaining control here, and I think that they're trying hard to hold it back because they're nervous in this one. Some other names to keep an eye on. I haven't gone through my entire list yet, but there's still a lot of great looking stocks like Broadcom, looking like it's starting to break out of a base here after doing nothing for basically this year. Looking at the weekly time frame, you can see it's built a nice base in there, and Broadcom could continue. We are earnings aren't due till September 2nd in there. CRISPR Therapeutics, these guys probably still a little bit early, but you can see there's the year-to-date volume-weighted average price and the 20-day moving average. It's holding up above. These are the types of stocks I'll be looking at for Alpha Trend subscribers next week and going into further detail about when to purchase. I don't want to buy CRISPR while it's below a declining 5-day moving average. So that's going to need a little bit of time to set up going into next week. DV is one that it came right down to the volume weighted average price from the IPO. That's also where the 50-day moving average was. It's bounced a little bit here, so I'd like to see it kind of settle down a little bit and then maybe get going. We did get involved in this IPO today, CXM. CXM came public about 2 weeks ago, and today it was purchased right here, sold a third at the volume weighted average price from that peak, and it continuing to hold 2/3 of a position there from a cost of 20.05. I think the price was maybe 2010. But again, there's a lot of stocks that are still setting up out there. DVA, DaVita Healthcare, look at the weekly time frame and the daily time frame. It's a nice consolidation. The issue here is it's just been very choppy, so I'm not sure that that's one I'm going to actually trade. I've got my eye on it, but that type of volatility is, not something that I'm generally interested in with all these big moves. To me, it's just too choppy. Etsy is one that does look good. If you look at the daily time frame here, you can see the year-to-date volume-weighted average price it's kind of struggling with. It had this big run, it pulled back, and now it's also back above the volume-weighted average price from this peak. That's that purple line going to a 30-minute time frame. What is that doing on there? I'll have to get rid of that another time. Or I guess I just did. Anyways, the 5-day moving average is flattening out in here. The volume weighted average price from this recent peak kind of coincides with the high today. So getting back above this level here with a stop, under here, maybe under there, depends on your time frame. I'm not here to tell you where you should put your risk. But this is coiled up nicely, and Etsy looks like it should be able to continue to move higher from here. A low price name, GSAT. Global Star. I have no idea what they do. Nice volume pattern. They just pulled back to the year-to-date volume-weighted average price and held on a 30-minute time frame. Maybe getting back above today's high, it could continue to move higher. There are just so many good-looking names out there. Overstock is one. OUST. I have no idea what these guys do. Pitney Bowes, even looking like it's starting to break that band of resistance that has been held by the year-to-date volume-weighted average price. Roblox, this one I had a very nice trade in about 2 weeks ago over in here. Now it looks like it's setting up once again, that 5-day moving average flattening out. We've got the 10 and 20-day move, the 20-day moving average rather will start to rise early next week as well. Then you've got the trade, the trade desk, TTD. Vizio is one that I got involved in today. TELL, this one looking at the weekly time frame, it's got room to run. There's a lot of opportunities still out there. And let's talk about Bitcoin real quick, because really nothing's happened in here. Nothing's changed the last several weeks. It just continues to rally up to the volume weighted average price from this low right here. That's where we've seen supply twice in the last 2 weeks, and the volume weighted average price from the beginning of this momentum back in June is where the buyers continue to defend. If it breaks there, then I still think it's likely we head down towards 25,000. I have no position in or really interest in Bitcoin right now. We're below the volume weighted average price from the low that it made in May. We're below the these volume weighted average price levels that are also declining. To me, it seems more likely that it will break down. If it doesn't, we'll reassess and maybe get long, but for right now I just don't see any advantage to being long Bitcoin right here, not for at least not my time frame. That'll do it. Have a good weekend. Thanks for tuning in.